Welcome in, Fantasy Football Universe. I am the Devy Mastermind of the FFU, SC Romero, joined today by my guy, my fellow Devy Enthusiast, my man, Spencer. How's it going, Spencer?
It's going great, man. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Ready to talk some Devy guys, or I guess some rookies we can start saying now, some
Yeah.
rising rookies because they entered the draft, and we're gonna get to know some guys that we're not really hearing a lot of chatter about. Everyone's talking about the Ashton Genseys, the Chet McMillan, and Shadur, and where he's going. No one's really talking about these guys, so we're gonna give y'all some of our takes, some of their strengths and weaknesses right after the intro.
Listen up closely, let the games begin. Top pick sleepers every week I spin. The FF universe here to help you win. The fantasy football universe.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. Always love that song. Always gets me nice and hyped and ready for a show here. But as I mentioned, we're gonna talk about some guys that are, I guess, in a sense, underappreciated. We're not hearing a lot of chatter about them through the socials, right? And getting the recognition they should. And we're gonna let you know, hey, be on the lookout for the guys before they, go out there and show it out the combine, or before they get some good capital and show off for your fantasy teams as well. Spencer, I know you had a couple guys here when you were looking at, these type of players. What really drives you to like want to see them? Like, what shines for you when you look at these hidden gems? I guess.
Yeah, when I'm looking for the hidden gems, I'm looking for a special trait. I think, there's a lot of guys like I think of like what made Puka Nakua, like what made him pop. And it
Mm-hmm.
was because he had these great like subtle movements and great hands on the sideline. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what helped him dominate when he entered. Amon-Ra St. Brown, same thing.
Right.
Just like really good footwork. So I look for that special trait because I think that can elevate them from, a regular to someone who can actually contribute for us. What about you?
For sure, for sure. Along the similar lines, but I'm looking for really what compares them. Like, why are these guys undervalued because they're just all around not good, or is it the location of where they're at as well? I tend to not necessarily look at as some of the guys that are going to the playoffs, right? I think some of these guys that we're talking about they didn't get to the playoffs, so it's like they're not getting the same national coverage, and that plays a huge factor. I feel in a lot of what social media pertains to is the guys that get that national coverage. Now, one of them here, I do feel he did get that, because he was on a pretty electric train throughout the season. Towards the end, they kind of fell off. But other than that, I want the guys that I'm not necessarily seeing on TV because those are guys that can be hidden gems because they don't have that publicity. But then you watch them, you watch the film, and you're like, hold on. If these guys were on these big teams, they can definitely go out there and have a big name for them as well. Um, the running backs we talk about over and over, these running backs are heavy in this class. It's a deep running back class, and that's with Nick Singleton and K. Allen both going back to school as well. They both decided they're gonna go back to Penn State along with Drew Allard, so they're gonna try to run it to get a championship. They're very close. Got that upset from Notre Dame, so they're gonna try to run it back. Probably get some receiving weapons. It would be interesting to see what Penn State does in the portal as far as getting some receivers. I think that can help them. But speaking of the running backs, let's start with your guy. That's gonna be the guy from Virginia Tech, Bhayshul Tuten. Tell us about your strengths with this guy right now.
Yeah, so I mean, the main thing that pops off with Bhayshul Tuten is, first of all, he's got straight line speed. He's got quick footstep, like quick first step. He gets going, and he's just gone. Which at his size, he's not a huge guy, but 209 is nothing to smirk at, especially at 5'11. And then you also see like he'll get, an arm tackle or, somebody will catch him with a shoulder and he bounces off and that contact balance is great.
Mhm.
Um, so, like I think that's that type of stuff. He's a little different from the other guys in this class with how fast he is. We
Yeah,
don't have a lot of those types of guys.
for sure. He's one of your smaller guys, smaller backs. Man, I have the stats down there. Has 6.3 yards per carry. Just over 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns. So he knew how to find the end zone. He has some good,
Yeah.
pretty good vision as far as what he can do. But it was definitely his speed that made the difference when he hits that outside. He's gone, really,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of these running backs that just go straight up the middle. He's showing that, yeah, don't let him get to the outside. I can see him play like a gadget type of back and make the impact in the passing game and third down to start, and potentially get full range. His size may affect him here and there, but I think he's definitely someone, as you mentioned, has that contact balance to go out there escape or evade the would-be tacklers and just make a big play every once so often. So definitely a good asset to keep an eye on when you're thinking about those type of players for you, especially in fantasy football, right? You need those guys that make that big impact for you. And he's showing that, especially with the way kick returns are happening too. We might see him get that special teams as well, to
Yeah.
continue to go on there. Fantastic though. I mean, you hit around the money with a bunch of his pros there. Let's talk about their weaknesses though. Unfortunately, everybody does have some weaknesses. So, what are some of the weaknesses you saw with him?
Yeah, that's he doesn't know how to run a route at all. Um, so that's
Right.
you'd think this guy he's got the speed, he's a little smaller, but he really didn't have any like quick movements or sharp cuts when he was running his routes. And when he caught the ball, he didn't turn up field as quickly as I'd like, which is weird because when you see him running the ball, he's got great burst and acceleration. So it was a
Right.
little weird. And then he doesn't push the pile. And part of that might be that vision knock, where it wasn't necessarily the weakest vision I saw, but he definitely missed gaps, ran into the back of his lineman. I think just trying to get going a little too quickly.
Right.
Um, but yeah, still, I think he's a solid contributor type.
Yeah, the reason why I was able to pass catch it, as you mentioned, he's not doing much when it's in his hands, but he is effective. 23 receptions is really good,
Yeah.
but 81 yards off that 23 receptions. So he wasn't doing much with it when he did catch the ball in his hands, and it had to do with, like you said, that lack of vision once it is and how he can extend the play, if you will. He can get the yards, but he's not doing much to extend it in the passing game there for you. But still an all around, good back to keep an eye on. He's definitely someone that's going to be a day 3 pick. But I do think he gets drafted, and I think a team's gonna take a shot on him in the special teams, because of that speed and what he can do in the first few yards just to make that impact and gain that separation from your defenders as well. What about you?
Yeah, I think he's he reminds me, like, I think his ceiling, he could be a Tony Pollard type where he comes in, rotational guy, good speed, decent enough size, and then maybe
Mhm.
finds a role for a year or two as a lead back after the main guy leaves.
Mhm.
In special teams, he had great special teams experience, so I think that
Mhm.
helps him get drafted and contribute right away,
For
as you
sure.
said.
For sure. I mean, based on Tuttle again, phenomenal year this past year at Virginia Tech to make an impact. We'll definitely see him come draft time. Keep an eye out for him because he's going to be, especially if you're in those deeper dynasties, fourth round type of pick, for your rookie drafts and can make an impact, at least have some games. I don't think he's going to have that Bucky Irvin type of momentum, right? Going in, Bucky Irvin does a lot more things better, but I do think he can, those spot starts where you need them. We need those players all around, right? So he's definitely someone that can kind of get those spot starts for you, make a big play. Just gotta know when you start him as well. But keeping on the running back train, as I mentioned, one of these guys did get some of that national coverage though, but I don't feel he's getting recognized as much. And maybe that's because his quarterback has been in the talks of QB1, QB2, but that's going to be the running back out of Miami, Damien Martinez. I mean, when I watch this guy, he does a lot of things correctly as far as just finding the holes, getting that vision. He's a patient runner, but he also explodes, when he goes through those holes there. The contact balance is really good. And the durability, he's someone that doesn't go down for his size, has great flex, if you will, when it comes to has the strength to get past them. The patience is really what stood out to me. The fact that he doesn't go right into the gaps. He does wait for his blockers to move around, but then he sees it and he can go as well. What are some thoughts for you about David Martinez?
Yeah, I want to highlight that last one, the nice footwork, because I saw him in these tight spaces where two linemen, there doesn't even seem to be a gap, and he's 240 pounds, and he
Mhm.
managed to work that footwork and keep going. I think you're spot on. This is a guy that's gonna pop. I
Mhm.
actually think that he could be a starter right away in the NFL.
Yeah,
Um, and I think you're right on, nailed it right on the head here.
for sure. I mean, hit him up here. We talked about Tuten had 6.3 yards per carry. So did he. A little bit less yards though. So he had less attempts there with 1,002 yards there and 10 touchdowns. But let's highlight the receptions. We talked about Tuten 23 for 81, 17 for 204. So he does make that impact. And I was seeing something about Jonathan Taylor. Forgot what it was, but he was in Miami or Martinez was there. Maybe it was Martinez was there for a bowl game or something or a game, in Indy Dome. So Jonathan Taylor was watching him. He was like, "Damn, that guy's big." Because of how fast he moves, because if he does
Yeah.
explode, but as you mentioned, he does have some size to be a 3 down back. but he also has the size for just that durability, the one that's going to make sure you get the job done, kind of that hammer, but at the same time has the elusiveness to kind of be effective, all around for him too, especially in the passing game. So I do believe he can make some sort of impact when it comes to it on any team that he does get drafted to. As I mentioned, there are cons for him. A couple things. Pass catching, it was good, but I think it's just more so Miami didn't use him as much, right? There are some things going on there when we talk about what Miami did towards the end. The patience. So his strength is also his weakness. Because at times it's like, bro, there is a hole there, but he does still wait for his blockers to go out there and make it. So in that happens, you get some extra defenders that understand, oh, it's a run now. So now they're able to get him in the backfield. And that hurts him a lot because of that hesitation. Like I feel like he has that gut instinct and he doesn't want to trust it. So he doesn't make that move and he kind of plays it safe. And that can hurt him. And for as big as it is, the pass protection can be more. I think it's just more of the awareness because he'll definitely go toe to toe with some of the guys as far as what he's doing. But when it comes to just being aware of where the blockers are coming from, I think that's something he could improve on. Any thoughts here?
No, I think you're spot on. And the only concern I have with those weaknesses is that maybe it's a processing issue for him, where he's just a little slow with it. But as you said with the pass pro, when he sees the guy, he handles it like a fullback. He catches him, he holds him back, he protects his quarterback, but he misses a little too often. And, you worry about a processing problem. But if he can fix that up, he could really be a solid contributor day one. He kind of reminds me of like Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, that durability, can be that 3 down back for him, like Stevenson, and again, he can make an impact in the pass catching. That is what I say his weaknesses because I feel it's not exploited as much, or he maybe he wasn't getting targeted as much so that we didn't see it. But what the little bit we did see is like, okay, this is the area I want him to improve on because if he can tackle this area of his game, he's going to be just a supernatural threat, if you will, just because of how dominant he can be at that next level as well. Martinez and 2 guys. Martinez, I feel will be a day 2 pick. To be honest, I don't know who sneaks into round 2 in this NFL draft. I think we're gonna see like maybe 3 or 4 running backs get into that round 2 spot. For round 3, that's where I think we see like another 3 or 4, and I think Martinez is more into that day 3, which I think again could be a steal. I think in the Premier League, and he saw what if Las Vegas takes him? That would be great. And that's sort of I think you could potentially get him mid-second, late second, maybe even early third in your rookie drafts. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I have probably like a late day 2 on him, but I think mid-second round of your rookie drafts, you're going to get a guy who, again, he can contribute right away, and if he lands on a team, Las Vegas or the Broncos, something like that, where he can get opportunity right away, I think it's a steal in a draft. He's going to be a great player.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, Broncos will be phenomenal too. There are a lot of teams that actually do need running backs. We talked about last season where a lot of teams kind of got their prime guys. Like we know, okay, these guys are interested in this, but then a lot of teams stayed away from the running back position because they knew this draft class was so deep, if you will. So they're able to get some here, and Damien Martinez can be a gem for any team that drafts him as well. This next guy is actually one of your wide receivers, and I think he could be a hidden gem. I think we could talk about him as potentially a top 5, but it's odd that we're not talking about him as much as a potential top 5. I think a lot of people still aren't aware of his game and what he can do. And that's going to be Iowa State, Jaylin Noel. Tell us about him.
Yeah, Jaylin Noel, he's a little undersized, 5'10", 185, but this dude is fast, twitchy, and he really understands how to get separation at the top of his route. He's got moxie. I don't know if you saw, but on Twitter, he was sparring with Iowa fans. He was getting at the Hawkeyes already after. This is a kid who he's going to go out there and fight for everything. He reminded me a lot of Rashid Shaheed when he was on tape. That separation at the top of the route, where he's got a step or two on the guy, and then he just gets open for that deep shot. This is a 50-yard, 60-yard bomb receiver who also has this short area quickness. Tyler Lockett is another comp. So just picture like that type of, undersized but twitchy, quick, good snappiness in his routes and great hips and really solid hands.
For sure.
So I think that he isn't getting talked about enough. He's going to be a slot guy, but he's not going to just be like a 5 for 45 slot guy. He's going to
Right.
be a 4 for 96 and a touchdown type of slot guy.
Right. Yeah, no, I think he's so to go on his quick twitch speed. He also plays a little bit grittier. I feel like for his size, as you mentioned, just getting down with the fans there, but also just on the field. He's someone that really doesn't take it as one of your smaller wide receivers. He goes out there and makes sure people know, hey, he's part of the game. There, he can make an impact from all over because he's so elusive. When it comes to getting open. When it comes to the ball in his hands, he can make the play as well. He has some nice yak to him. So he's definitely someone to watch out for, and someone that can be a steal because he's a late round pick in the draft, but yet he can elevate to a solid 2. I don't know if I can see him as a 1, but I think he could be a solid 2. It depends, right? I think any receiver has an opportunity. They can potentially be a 1, but I think he could be a solid complementary role to one of your bigger type of wide receivers. Maybe put him outside of when Nico Collins is. If you have him there, Jaylin, Noel, Nico Collins, that would be dangerous to match up against because Nico's so big he can stretch the field as well with Jaylin, but then also at the same time Jaylin can hit underneath and be what we saw the explosiveness in Tank Dell was early on too. So I would actually love for him to be in a complimentary role there. So weaknesses though, let's talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, they all kind of stem from strength, right? When he gets jammed up at the line, he does not get separation. The press coverage really holds him. He doesn't fight through contact when he's trying to catch the ball either. He's great. Like after the catch, he'll fight for yards. But at the catch point, he just doesn't have enough functional strength to really come down with it. So I'm a little worried about that. That's going to hold him back, especially in college, especially the Iowa State system. He's not facing that much press coverage, and he's able to get deep in his routes before he runs into a guy. But the NFL they're going to know his strengths. They're not going to let that happen.
Right.
So that's the area he needs to improve on that. Even if he just gets another step in his release package to avoid that contact, that'll do a lot of good for him. But it's definitely learnable, but it's risky in that.
And especially early on when you talk about press coverage, if defenses are aware about that at that pro level, they're going to do everything they can to make sure you're uncomfortable when you first get in there, that welcome rookie, right? So they will be trying to press him if they know, all right, if we can get him early, he's not going to be an impact to the play because we know our defense can get behind the line, or maybe we know the quarterback will lose focus and just try to get the ball out their hands, or maybe they change a run, whatever it may be. But that can definitely impact him, because a lot of his speed, as you mentioned, does come within those first 5 or so yards because he's able to. He has that gap there, but then he's able to hit that second gear and go on. But if someone's pressing him against it, it kind of makes him irrelevant because of his effectiveness in finding the open zones. Those split seconds matter when it comes to the quarterback and reading the field, right? If that wide receiver is gone, chances are they're moving on. They're going on through their reads to make sure, okay, which wide receiver is open. And if Jay and Noel can't get open because of his size, he's playing some bigger defensive backs, that could definitely be a factor. And you hit on the contested catches as well that, if he's not bringing them down, that doesn't make him the kind of safety net, for the quarterbacks to trust him when it's, one-on-one coverage for him. It's going to be you have to beat them or you have to find your soft spot in the coverage as well to make sure I trust throwing you the ball there. Where do you think he gets drafted for?
I honestly, I think he maybe is early day 3, but maybe late day 2. Depends on the combine. I think he'll probably run in the low 4.4s, but if he can break 4.4 and run like a 4.39, 4.38, I think he gets day 2. But my guess is 4th round, probably like around pick 110 to 120. So early there, and he starts as like a wide receiver 3-4 on a team and moves his way up the depth chart. What about you?
Yeah, I think he could get day 2 capital. I think it's more likely that he gets day 2 capital over day 3. I can see some teams sleeping on him. I think it's hard, man, because I do really think a lot of running backs are going to happen in this draft and in the early rounds. So I think that pushes a lot of these wide receivers back, We've talked about not being such a D class, like there's a teardrop consistently. But I think Noel, because of his talents, and as you mentioned, the combine can definitely help. But I think he's one of those wide receivers that we could see sneak into day two. And it's just because of what they like in the speed. As we see the NFL transitioning to more of a passing type of environment, you are one of these teams needing that speedy guy. And time and time again, as I brought up, I think they are getting these type of guys, but yet they're a little bit undersized. And he is that undersized wide receiver as well. But I feel when it comes to his footwork and what he can do in the open field makes him dangerous enough that teams will want to take a shot on him and say, okay, this is a playmaker we can have on our team. He doesn't need to be there on every single play, but he can go out there and make an impact. As I said earlier, I think there is a shot that he can, be a wide receiver too for a team. Um,
Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned, he has to climb that depth chart, but I think it'll depend on team dependent, and what teams
True.
draft him. Some teams get the depth, and it's like, bro, you didn't even need that position. Why'd you do it? But he's one of those playmakers where you can see it happen for them to say, all right, we just want to take him to make sure we can use him to our abilities as well.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Last guy here though is going to be Syracuse wide receiver / tight end. And everyone's talking about Tech McMillan, the 6'5" monster, but no one is talking about my guy Oronde Gadsen. Just all around dominant guy. I mean, when I watch his tape, he's doing a lot of great things on it. As I mentioned, the size 6'5", strong hands. He plays with aggression. He has good footwork. He's not speedy. Don't get me wrong. Ted has a little bit more twist in it, but he does gain that separation in his routes enough to have a good yard or two between him and the defender, which makes it easy for him to pass, especially because he is such a big body on the field. It's easy for the quarterbacks to see it and be like, okay, that's my guy. I'm going to go out there and get that. He's able to do that because of his footwork, right? He's not twitchy, he's not going left and right, but he knows where to place his feet appropriately to make the proper cuts and make a smooth transition, whether it be in the open field or to go outside to then again gain that separation. So the quarterback seeing him wave his hand down the field, say, okay, there's my guy. I'm going to go get him. What'd you like about Oronde Gadsen?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head again. He's a very polished receiver who's been playing like a tight end, but he's been playing wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
What impresses me most is you watch him through the years, and he's gone through quarterback change, system change, quarterback change, and he's always the top dog.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who they bring in. It doesn't matter who's around him. He's the guy who's dominating at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he goes he's undervalued because he's been seen as this like hybrid tight end wide receiver. But you're spot on. He's going to be a red zone threat, and he's really good after the catch, which I think it gets almost like overlooked because of the guys he's up against consistently.
Yeah. No, he's someone that injuries might become a concern, but yeah, I do agree because of his size, that red zone threat will be what the teams want, and I think he's someone that because of his ability or his knowledge at the tight end position too, you could line him up on the line or you could line him outside, whether it be outside or in the slot as well. He's been all around and he just makes that impact because of his size. Teams have to watch out for him and what he's doing on the field at all times. Speaking on calls, you mentioned the yards after the catch. He's good with it, but I have it as a weakness here because he's someone that he does gain that separation, but that speed isn't breaking away. As I mentioned, the top end speed there. So he can get yards after the catch, but I don't see him breaking out a lot of things. It could be a deep play and the quarterback gets him deep, but I don't see him necessarily catching the ball and then making a 40, 50-yard run because a lot of times he does get that. I put play too aggressive along with injuries here because I feel like every catch I watch of this guy, he is just naturally going in there. And it's like, bro, no one's around you. Why are you coming down that hard? That is not. It's not a true weakness, but at the same time, it's like, bro, sometimes you have to take it easy, take a chill right there. There's not a player around you. You don't need to catch the ball so aggressively to go after it like that. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, just to hit, like, he's not going to break off a 40-yard run after the catch. I'm more thinking like he catches and he bowls over a guy playing that aggressively. Like that's what he looks for contact and he pushes through it. And that's going to add up if he doesn't add weight.
Sure.
But if he adds weight, he's going to lose some of that quickness. So he does need to learn how to play a little bit more in himself.
Yeah.
But he could be a great possession type of receiver, consistent target, quarterback's best friend type of guy.
For sure, for sure. No, I agree. Like, I think when it comes to his drafting, they might have some injury concerns with him, so some of that durability. So I do think he is a day three pick. I can see him going like round five, maybe early round six. But I think he could be a steal too. You know, we're seeing the transition of the tight ends being more evolved. Like I mentioned, pass heavy offense is someone that can go in and outside. You know, in the lineups is someone that could be great. Like imagine him with like a Indianapolis Colts, right? Someone that needs a
Mhm.
tight end that can also use a wide receiver elsewhere all around the field too, but someone that can play easy to Anthony Richardson so he can make some easy dump offs, but yet still be a consistent threat, especially if we're talking about, you know, if they're in the red zone, you know, when they're 15 yards out or something, and it's like, okay, they've stopped us on. We're on third down, you know, and we have to get this, and they don't want to run it with Richardson or Jaylin. You have someone like Gadsen that could go out there and make a big play. They already have 6'3" wide receivers on the outside, but their tight ends have been a little under, you know, as far as what they can do productivity wise. So you have around the Gadsen that can do that, or also move outside, you know, with injuries they had, you know, maybe he does go outside for a little bit here and there. But I would love to see him on a team that is going to be flexible with him, not to say he's one of those tight ends that just, you know, lines up at the tight end, because I don't think that's how you properly use him. I think you have to use his height, his size to your advantage and make sure he can do that. He's definitely going to gather a lot of air yards. That's going to be big because he is someone that will be able to stretch it. But he's also someone that can eat for you underneath as well. What are your thoughts as far as draft capital for him?
Yeah, I think you're. I think day three. I'm actually. I think he could sneak into round four. Um, and I could see a world in which he gets like pick 95 in day two. Um, I kind of want to see him on the Patriots. Uh, Play like kind of a Joker will get with Drake May and
Yeah,
really move around. They have Hunter Henry, who's kind of the true tight end. He
yeah,
can learn some of the true tight ends, but they can move him outside because they need wide receivers desperately, but also
right.
move inside. That flexibility, as you said, that's his key.
And that makes sense too, because the Patriots are likely to build up on their pass catchers this draft. They kind of didn't hit. Maybe they try to get Jalen Polk or Javon Baker another year, but they didn't really hit. So maybe this year they try to get some guys that say, hey, here's some fillers, and these guys can be our two or our second options there. And yeah, Gatson, I mean, learning from Henry, I think that'll be a big part of his game because he's probably going to enter as a tight end. I don't know. But that'll be a big part in
Yeah,
learning the full position. Because I do think there are some key aspects to be your all around tight end. I think he's closer to a wide receiver than a tight end. So having
yeah,
someone like Hunter Henry will benefit him greatly because he can show him the ropes. And Hunter Henry is low key a really good tight end as well. You know, he has some great pass
yeah,
catching ability and what he can do on the field. So that'd be great to see. And I agree, he could definitely be someone to hit the marks there.
yeah. It's kind of like what they were looking for with Mike Gesicki. That guy who isn't a tight end, but everyone always marks him as it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, 100%. Kasicki has his range, right? He's and same thing, you know. I think that's it. Um, as you hit the tight end, the red zone threat, I think that's gonna be a big
Yeah,
part of his game. You know, and being someone that could be there. If he goes to the Bengals too and takes over Gasicki's role, that's gonna be awesome.
yeah, that'd be
Um,
great.
that's all we have for you today, though. I'm gonna highlight these players again for us so we see everything here. Based on Tuten, as we said, Virginia Tech running back, great guy with some huge speed. You know, he's not gonna be a guy that busts through the gaps for you right out the way, but if he gets outside, he could definitely make that impact for you as well. Last thoughts on Tuten?
Just again, this is a guy you're gonna want to watch him at the combine. He should have a great day, and he's gonna be your perfect guy if you want a big play, best ball friend.
Best ball. I love that. Love that. Miami running back Damien Martinez. We talked about his patience is his strength and his weakness. He does wait for his blocks to open up, but then he's gone. He could definitely get out there and make some nice moves with his footwork and has solid size. And for his speed, it's like, well, what's going on? But as we mentioned, that weakness is that hesitant vision. Sometimes that gets the best of him, allows defenses to get him in the backfield. Though, final thoughts on Martinez?
No, he's a bruiser. He's gonna score a lot of touchdowns. He's gonna work inside, good footwork. Just that footwork is so subtle. You got to watch it
Mhm.
because it's hard to believe someone this big can do what he does in small space.
For sure, for sure. He can get small, if you will, you know, when it comes to those tight gaps if he needs to get in there.
Yeah,
Um, The wide receiver from Iowa State, Jaylin Noel, that quick chitch, someone that can bring out that separation downfield, but also just be a solid, wide receiver too in comparison to an alpha, if you will. But not the strongest guy on the field, so he does rely on that speed for him to get in. Well, final thoughts on him.
Yeah, just he's going to be one of those guys again, like kind of a best ball guy, but Rashid Shaheed, where you're not expecting it, but he's consistently doing well. Um, and that's I think how he's going to surprise people is, you don't expect this little guy who does a lot of deep routes to break out, and he's gonna do that. He's
For
got this
sure.
great ability at the top of his routes that most NFL players don't have.
For sure. For sure. And then the final guy, the Syracuse hybrid, the tight end wide receiver, Oronde Gadsen the second. Just all around 6'5" monster, a nightmare matchup for teams. And he does have a little bit of footwork in there to make sure he gains that separation to make it an easy target for quarterbacks. At the same time, though, those air yards are going to be a big friend of him because he doesn't necessarily have that top end speed to get past the defenders or break away once the ball is in his hands. So you're going to rely a lot more on him going down the field or just being that red zone target. Final thoughts on him?
Yeah, same thing. Strong hands. You really got to watch this guy. He plays tough. You just hope that he can stay healthy.
Yeah,
That's going to be his biggest thing.
for sure. Yeah, the health. I mean, that's always a huge one too. So hopefully all these guys shine in the combine. Combine, could rise or tank someone's stock. As someone that
Yeah.
was a huge fan of Bucky Irvin, the combine made me second guess it. I'm gonna go in there with different eyes this combine to see what I can see with these players. But any final thoughts on any gems or any of these guys we talked about?
No, I think that you got to look at the combine, but these guys all pop on tape, and that's the most important thing.
Mhm.
What you got to watch just a little games. You'll see that these guys, even if they have a disappointing day, like Damien Martinez, I guarantee you, he's gonna run his 40, and people are gonna be like, oh, I don't want
Four
anything to do with
six,
this
yeah,
guy. He's
for
gonna be
sure.
like 4'6", maybe 4'6'5", and he's
Mhm.
gonna be a great NFL running back.
Yeah,
Because you don't need to break 50-yard plays every time to be an NFL running back. You need to
right,
consistently get six.
right.
So watch the tape, watch these guys play. They're good at football.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I love it, man. Watch the tape always because that tells you what you need to know when it comes to starting guys. Competition does matter. Make sure you are watching that as well.
Yeah.
But just make sure you're watching those big games because sometimes they might not be playing heavy competition all season, but they do play it here and there. So make sure you watch those big games. But until next time, I am the Devy Mastermind of the FFU, joined today again by my man Spencer. Always appreciate you coming on and talking some Devy football with me. I'm sure some drafts will be happening here soon as we're starting to kick off, that offseason. At least some trades are, So join us today. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, like. We appreciate everyone that's coming in and helping us rise. But until next time, I'm SC. That's my guy Spencer. We'll see y'all later.